what I'm sort of showing people is there's a way to create success and actually have a successful healing practice without having to turn yourself into an entrepreneur, which you just aren't.
Welcome to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast, where world-changing spiritual entrepreneurs come to deeply awaken the power within to bring forth their greatest purpose, while enjoying being in tune with all life and real wealth in all aspects of their lives. I'm your host, Daniel John Hanneman. Welcome, everybody, to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. We have another incredible guest. If you're a healer, you've got to pay attention. Pay attention. You probably are not a big fan of doing sales, right? Like, oh, I don't want to feel salesy. I don't want to do the yucky sales. Just send me clients. Just let them pay me. I'll do the work. I'll devote myself to them. But don't make me do sales. Like, can I set up an automated funnel that just brings me all my clients because I'm going to just send them to me? Well, I'll tell you what, the chances are that you succeed by just laying back and hoping for those things to work out are very low, as I've written about recently. So I brought on someone who's really honed into this space for a long time now to help healers to sell, similar to me in that regard. And so I'm really grateful that you're here today. And I know you're going to have amazing guidance and love and strategy and practical tips for people with sales today, for the healers especially.
Yes, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah.
Let's dive in.
All right. So let's go ahead and share more about Ann before we dive into the rest. So Ann Hession is an energy healer, medical intuitive, and a soulful business expert. So anybody that says you only have to pick one niche, forget about it. Ann's doing multiple things. It's just what fits, guys. She helps healers, coaches, solopreneurs who have amazing gifts that change lives, that but are allergic to sales and marketing, keeping them from having a thriving business doing what they love. She created a six-figure energy healing practice and has sold millions in programs and services, which sounds like a lot, but it just adds up, year after year after year after year after year. It just keeps adding up. And she will help you confidently grow your business without feeling fake, pushy, or salesy. And how I really see, and there's a lot of people that say I've made millions or I make billions a year or millions at 6 figures, 8 figures, 9 figures a year. And some of them are beautiful, very good people. And then there's other people that are very good people, but they are not doing great work out there. And they're also like very focused on just making all that money. And that's one of their primary, there's more primary for them than it should be. I mean, they don't care enough. So Anna is just the opposite. She just absolutely cares. I see her. I mean, maybe I'm projecting, but like, she really cares and just is right. And she really wants to see you succeed as much as anything else. And of course, she wants to thrive to the highest level and be that example. And so, Ann, I really appreciate that about you.
It's good to be here. Yeah, I mean, it really is about people have all these wonderful gifts, all these wonderful skills, all the years of training they put in, the time they put in, and they can really transform people's lives. But if they can't figure out how to make a living doing it, then not only can they can't make a living doing that, and that means they really actually can't help as many people as they want to help, because they have to spend most of their time doing something else to make a living, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would really like to help every single one of them be able to offer what they do, sell what they do, so that they have lots of people who are happy to pay them and whose lives are getting transformed by their work. And most healers they need some help getting out of their own way to make that happen.
Yeah, again, I mean, I won't keep saying this, hopefully, but I'm like, that's exactly what I say. Like, come on, you guys need to learn to do this so you can actually help more people, right? I mean,
yeah.
So you could try to run around it. Well, for me, I'll just do it on the side, but this is a calling. This is your purpose. This is likely what you're meant to be doing full time in your life, like for many of you. And yet, you're now willing to just have enough courage to figure it out, so to speak, and let it happen. And then you have someone like Ann that can help you to, get past your encumbrances around the thing that trips people up the most, which is the sales, receiving the money, feeling like
Mhm.
your service is going to be good enough, but it's always good. But what if it wasn't? And all those
Yeah,
those
yeah. What if
objections.
they're not happy? What if they find out? What if it's this? What if am I charging too much? Am I charging too little? Am I all that stuff. People they go around and around in circles, and
Right,
I need to break out of that.
right, right. So you talk about soulful sales, and so I'm curious. Because yeah, I mean, I've been told I'm pretty unique. Like, oh, you're a healer and you teach marketing and sales, and it is
Mhm.
like that. That's a unique
Get that all the
combination,
time. Yeah, I get
right?
that all the
You
time.
do, right? So me and Annabelle, like, we should do stuff together because we really love the synergy we have. Now, what did you get started with? Did you start with the energy healing stuff, or did you kind of start with both? Or I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a journey of decades, to get
Yeah.
here. But I would say I've always been interested in the alternative, the more holistic, the spiritual, the more energetic. I did a lot of powerful work, back in my 20s, so back in the 80s in that realm. I lived on Maui on this like kind of commune kind of thing. We did all kinds of really out there stuff. And I wouldn't have called any of that actually energy healing at the time, but really it does belong under that umbrella. And so I've been doing that kind of work and personal development work, for decades and decades. Um, I think I am kind of naturally entrepreneurial. So I've often been, whether it was doing some kind of healing work or something else, I've been self-employed most of my life. I mean, I've had jobs along the way too. Um,
Mhm.
so there's always been a bit of interest in both, but for a lot of that time, I was allergic to sales, as I like to say. So the entrepreneurial stuff, was tough. I mean, I wasn't making a great living at it because I was really hung up on one of the pieces you absolutely have to have. But but I still, I wanted to have my own gig. And I think and you're in that category too. I'd say you're naturally entrepreneurial, but we're in the minority of healers,
Right.
right? I mean, and I base that on, I've literally in the last 10 years had over 10,000 one-to-one conversations with other energy healers. Like, and that's not an exaggeration, like well over 10,000 conversations, just like I'm having with you, with
Mhm.
other energy healers. And so that's a lot of data, right?
Right.
And I can tell you from that data, the great majority are not making a living. The great majority feel like they don't have the first clue how to build a business and how to get clients. And the great majority are not naturally entrepreneurial people. I would say 10 to maybe 15% of people who would identify themselves as healers and energy healers also have that kind of entrepreneurial streak, but the great majority really don't. And
Mhm.
knowing that as I do, like I know it because I talked with so many of them, I
Mhm.
think what kind of opened up for me as the business that I have now and what I do now is realizing, well, trying to turn them into entrepreneurial people is not going to work. And I think that most business coaching, kind of marketing programs, things out there, the majority of them, I think were built for more entrepreneurial people, right?
Yeah.
Which is why a lot of healers try them and they're just like, it's good information, but it's just not, it doesn't work for them, right? So that's where, I have that, what I call soulpreneur, right? And so what I'm sort of showing people is there's a way to create success and actually have a successful healing practice without having to turn yourself into an entrepreneur,
Right.
which you just aren't, right? So and you and I are both. We're entrepreneurial and we're also soulpreneurs, right? But you don't have to be both to make a living.
Mhm.
I mean,
Right.
I'll kind of joke, I'll be like, you want to build a 7-figure business, you're going to have to get entrepreneurial. But that's not what most healers are trying to do, right? They just want
Right.
to help a lot of people and make a good living doing it. And
Right.
there is a path to doing that without having to turn yourself into someone you're not.
Do you want to meditate and make money? Let it be simple. Let it be easy. Let it be fun. Go to yoursacredpurpose.com and get your free meditate, make money meditation today.
Right. Exactly. I mean, that's put in such a great way. I mean, um, it's a good frame to think about. Like, well,
Mhm.
how many of them are entrepreneurial minded or geared towards that? And like you said, we both are, but not everybody is. And that's so true because I mean, I haven't counted how many conversations I've had with people, but it's obviously thousands of healers. So we have our combined thousands and thousands of data set, right? And I've
Yeah.
seen exactly the same thing. I mean, the majority of them are just like nice people that are are just like they are gifted with healing, and they could bring great healing. They could be great
It's
listeners, great energy,
amazing. I mean, they're
transmit, right?
amazing. Some of the
Yeah,
work
but
that they
they
do, I'm just like dumbfounded. Like, that's incredible what you can do, right?
yes.
Let's get someone paying you for it.
Right, right. And that's what hangs them up. They're like, but where do you get, usually, where do you get them? Where do you get those clients? I don't know. Do you do it here? Do you do it there? Do you do this? Do you do that? You set up a system, and my message, is really strong to people, especially joining my programs, because I keep repeating it because they're so brainwashed. I said, talk to someone, offer them, whether it's a consultation, or for me, it's an energy scan. Say, offer them an energy scan, sign them up as a client.
Mhm.
Oh, but I don't know. I need to get my back end set up. I need to do this.
Right, right. I don't have a website
What
yet. I'll
part
do that
of
when I have a
talk to
website.
stuff? Right, right, exactly. You don't need you don't need business cards. You don't need websites. I've had people that actually listen to me, like they don't have any of it, and they start making 10 grand a month or whatever. You don't have to. It's the basics, guys. You connect with a human. You show them you show them or encourage them or whatever, you give them confidence you can help them, and then let them work with you. It's that simple, but everybody's making it so hard. I always say, if you want to do leverage and all these complicated schemes, if that's really in your bandwidth, which it isn't in most people's bandwidth at all, then maybe once we get to six figures. But until then, in my opinion, most of that stuff slows people down. They're just playing safe.
Well, a
They're
lot
just
of
like,
times
let me just
people
do this.
are, and this has to do with the sort of the online marketing industry and all that. And
Yes,
I'm
yes,
not like knocking people, like, most
yes.
people out there are just, they're really trying to help people, but
Right. Oh, yeah.
they're not always successful at like meeting people where they are. So a lot of times then people get excited about something, and so they invest in something that's really 5 or 6 or 20 steps ahead of where they are right now.
Right.
But then they're like, like a website where I mean, I always tell people, when you're first starting out, you don't need a website. It's just going to slow you down. You'll have no idea what to put on it. It doesn't matter if it's pretty. It's not going to make you clients unless you have messaging, unless you have language that will actually resonate with and attract people. And even then, you also have to get people to the website. But even if you get them there, if the language isn't something they're going to resonate with, it's not going to do you any good to have a website. And there is only one way. Literally, there is only one way you're going to come up with the messaging and the language that would resonate and attract clients to you. And that's from your clients. Like, you have to just work with a bunch of people. You have to, and listen to them and ask them questions and find out what motivates them and what moves them and what they're struggling with. And over time, they'll hand you your marketing message. At that point, you're already making some money. Okay, yeah, maybe now you might want to go do a website. But trying to do it at the beginning, it's a fool's errand. It won't do you any good.
I totally agree. I mean, again, our philosophies so far are just so right on.
Yep,
I
yep.
say the same thing. I'm like, you want to have awesome marketing, then start working with people one-to-one. I especially am a hawk for one-to-one to start with, at least.
Yes,
Really get intimate with them, really understand them. Then you'll know what to say. You'll know the things they keep
exactly.
saying to
And
put
so
in your marketing.
it really all comes down to sales. And this is why I always say sales is more primary. Sales is more important than marketing. Once
Mhm.
you've figured out sales and you know how to sell effectively to people come to you, then you really need to focus on marketing so you have more people to talk to, right? But it doesn't matter how many people you have to talk to if you can't do the sales part. If you don't know how to have a conversation with people, if you don't know like how to ask them questions and how to come to an understanding of and help them get clear on what it is that they're dealing with and what they want instead, all of that is sales, right? So there's
Mhm.
I will go to my grave saying this, there is no skill more important in business than one-to-one sales. Being able to
Right.
just have a one-to-one conversation with people, and when appropriate, offer, invite them to work with you.
Right. Absolutely. I mean,
Nothing else
that's
substitutes that.
it.
I don't care how many funnels, platforms, great converting landing pages, networking. I don't care how much stuff that you have. If you can't have that conversation at the end of it, all of it was a waste.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're talking about the Soulful Healer people is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Now, if you could have an internet, you can have all kinds of businesses with no one-to-one sales necessarily, although
Yeah, that's different.
probably
But
do
for
need to enroll
service
people in
businesses like
certain things.
this, you got to have the conversation. Yep.
Right. Totally. 100%. So, but what happens is people right away when I hear it again and again, sales, I just can't take it. That word, I just can't take the sales word. How do you handle that when people say, I just don't like the word sales? And even when you call it soulful sales, it's still sales.
Yeah. So I'm very just upfront about it. I use the word sale. I don't tend to use the sort of softer words like enrollment and all
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah.
Because I really am. It's like, you got to get over this.
Right.
And I'm saying that
Good
with love,
philosophy.
right?
Yeah.
But it's like, I want to desensitize you. I want you to actually shift your association with sales, right? So I love sales now. I didn't used to, but now I do because for me, sales has become as connected, as authentic, as juicy, as truly as healing as the healing work. I've had sales conversations where we're both crying, right? Because we're just getting sort of at the core of what's going on for that person and what they want, and sales is like taking a stand for people. People talk a lot about heart-centered sales, which is a phrase I still use some. I used it kind of a lot because it's a phrase that's out there. I didn't make that up, right? I still use that sometimes, but I more often say soulful sales. But I'll tell you, part of the reason why I don't love that phrase quite as much anymore, heart-centered sales, is because I think for us heart-centered, like the soulful healer type people, we're kind of using that to mean that it should be all about feeling and all about emotion and just all about love and all about, which would mean you would never, really take a stand for people, honestly, right? Like you wouldn't ever kind of put, I don't mean push like pushy, but push with permission. Do you know what I mean? It's like it needs to be soft, and it's like, well, no, because here's what I mean when I say heart-centered. We think of the heart as that's the seat of love. It's also the seat of courage, right? And sales is actually being courageous. It's being courageous enough to put yourself out there, to take a stand for the other person, to take the time to really get to know what's going on and make your recommendation of what would really help them. And that does take courage. So that's more what that has come to mean to me, is less about the love, although it's always grounded in love, but more about okay, but that love in action has to show up as courage.
Right. Reminds me of the lion, right? Wizard of Oz.
Yep.
Courage. I gotta have courage. And so that he needed a heart, right? I need a heart for courage. And so that's actually a really good image for the when it's for that part. Of course, he's trying to act all tough, but up front, but a little bit different there. But so yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's again, we're exact, with a lot of these philosophies so far. But I always say, the biggest transformation often can be at the point of them saying yes to coming into the program. I would say the people are doing it, the enrollments best, or the sales, or whatever you want to call it, best, are the ones that are accomplishing that often, regularly, somewhat regularly. At least,
it takes
right
practice
then.
as much as anything else. It does take practice and just putting yourself out there, over and over, because you'll get better at it. Sales is, I think a lot of times people, I mean, you'd ask what do I say, or how do we do it when people are like, sales, whatever. So I truly do like to take that head on and acknowledge that, yeah, we have all this negativity about sales. Let's not pretend we don't. So I actually will do an exercise with a group where we'll just have them spit out all that crap, all the negativity. And it's like, if I'm doing it on a Zoom, it's like the chat's blowing up. It's like pushy, liar, manipulative, it's just let's just get it all out there. Because if we're trying to pretend it's not there, we can't build anything good on that load of crap, right? So we just kind of get it all out there. And we'll actually make like a word cloud out of it, right? And we just acknowledge like that's what's there. So let's just clear that, right? And then we create a new context for sales. We create a context of service. And I kind of, it's a whole kind of exercise I take people through. But inside of that context, then we're like, okay, if that's what it is, now what's present? And then the chat just blows up again with words like service and possibility and connection and right? So we shift the context.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because again, that's pretty much the universal conditioning around sales is sales are trying to get you. They just want your money, and that feels horrible, right? It feels bad. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel expanded. So does it feel like of the heart? Yeah. So because that's the
and then it's tied
too.
into money, right? And if there's one thing we have all kinds of negative associations with, it's money, right?
Right.
So there's that too, because sales is just inextricably tied in with money. So we have to, kind of loosen that up a bit too, and just get all the negative associations we have with money, and that it's about being greedy and this, that, and the other. And I mean, money is just energy. I mean, it really is. I mean, quite literally. I mean, everything's energy, right? We're like quantum people. We'd like to talk about everything's energy. And money's no exception. But this kind of blows my mind. Quite literally, money is energy. And here's what I mean by that. Probably 80 to 85% of the money in the world today, and I'm not even talking about crypto, okay? I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about things that like government currency, that everyone would agree that's money, okay?
Yeah.
80+% of that has zero existence in the world except as anything other than an electronic signal. That's the reality of the world we live in.
Right. True. I would say it's higher than that, but maybe
I think it is higher, but I'm just going to be a little, and it's like, it's just literally, we could put our own frequency on it, right? We can put our
numbers on the screen is all it is.
Yeah, right. So like, why not just put your own instead of it being about greedy or whatever? Why not choose that for you? That money is compassion, money is courage, money is possibility, money is service. You can choose that that's what it is in your life if you choose.
Right. Yeah, it is having that courage, realizing that we can allow it to happen. We can allow people to give us money and trust, to trust. And you don't have to be perfect. You may have it's possible. It usually doesn't happen very often for healers, but it will happen. Somebody will get upset if you help enough people, right? Oh, I don't know if you did that clearing the right way or something. Those things happen eventually. Or somebody that says, I don't know if I got better, or what, it always happens to almost every healer. But what I know about that is, again, you got to realize that the truth is they probably did transform. They have no clue yet, right? So number one. Number two, if you take it personally, then you're dead in the water, right? Because it may have nothing. Why is it one client's like super easy to do the transformation? Someone else is like, man, they're not even showing up for their appointments. What's going on? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So we have to just not make it personal, right? So I think if we can do that and it's just realize like and we will make mistakes here and there, but overall,
we're not perfect. I'll tell
perfect.
in my healing business, and I do still have energy healing clients. So most of what I'm doing is coaching and helping other healers, but I still have a few, and I have to feel like I could be wrong. Like, this is not, so can any lab test that you get, right? Like,
right, exactly.
Right. It's just like, this is the world. We'd like everything to be 100% black and white. It just isn't that way. And we'd like everything to be linear. It's not that way, right? Including me. But one of the hardest things for my the healers that I work with, for them to take on, because healers have this tendency to feel like everything's their responsibility and everything's their fault if it didn't go well, right? We're the people who take care of everybody else and don't let other people support us. I mean, as a general rule, that's a pretty good generalization, right? So one of the hardest things for them to really accept, that I will repeat because I think it's really important, is you are not responsible for your client's results. You're not. I mean, you can't be, right? You're responsible for doing your best. You're responsible for showing up. You're responsible for expanding and learning and communicating as best you can and supporting them in every way that you can. But you're not actually responsible for their results. And when you can get that, it will give you freedom.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is true. I mean, when people are working with me, I typically ask them to be fully committed. Otherwise, I won't work with them. I mean,
Yeah,
that's how it goes. I'm not working with you unless you're fully committed to the result you just said you're looking for. Otherwise, we're done. We're done here. Well, I think I'm committed. Will this help me? No, you didn't understand what I said. Are you fully committed? Because if someone is fully committed and if they stay fully committed, they'll get the results regardless of anything I do. Like, in my opinion, more times than not, like almost 100%. So, they'll get the result as long as it's something true that they really want. They're not lying to
right.
themselves. So, yeah, I mean, it is. And it's on the person that's in front of you. That doesn't absolve us. Like, yeah, it's all on you. It's your shit, not mine. It does. It's not
Right.
that either, right? Like that kind of nonsense. But it's
Mhm.
also not like, oh my God, like you're having a bad day. That must be something I did. I didn't upgrade your frequency enough or something. Who
Right.
knows, what kind of
Yeah.
thing that we're going to come up with, right? To blame ourselves and put
Mhm.
it on ourselves. And now
Right.
I have to do, let me give you some more, let me give you some for free or extra long sessions and extra and extra. Let me just put all my, I know I've done that. I know I still do it to a
Yeah,
degree, just because I care and I love to give. But you have to have boundaries. You have to decide enough's enough,
you
and
do.
they are where they
And some
are.
people will
It's
really push
okay.
those boundaries, and some
Mm-hmm.
people will be that
Mm-hmm.
sort of, I'm going to difficult client, right? There's some people will really push those boundaries. And,
Mm-hmm.
I've certainly have in the past gotten sucked into that a little bit and like, oh, I need to do more. And then you learn that like the people, and I say this without judgment because they're just dealing with their own stuff too, right? They're just trying to get by. They're just
Right.
trying to survive.
Right.
But
Exactly.
part of how some people, how they've got to survive is to be the problem person, is to be the one, is to be that squeaky wheel, is to
Right.
be the one who always asks for more. And
Yes.
there's a point where you're not actually helping them
Right. Right.
to always bend over backwards for them. That's just perpetuating that pattern. And so when you can kind of just with love and understanding go, yeah, we're not going to do that. That's probably the thing that you more than anything else.
Yes. Yes. Completely. Absolutely. I love telling people no when it's appropriate. Like, can
Mm.
you do this for me? No.
The magic of
Oh,
no.
oh wow, that was transformational for me. I've manipulated so many people to give me what I want, but you're saying no. Wow, that's healing for them. It's healing to
It
say
is.
no. It's healing for you to have good boundaries. Otherwise, you just continue to keep their patterns going that are dysfunctional for them too. So I think that's fantastic, and it's dysfunctional to keep charging nothing for everybody all the time. I mean,
No.
it's not like you don't have you never do anything for out of just out of like the sense of I want to do this for you. Okay, that might happen here and there. That's fine. In my opinion, it's okay. If
Yeah,
it happens,
I'm totally great. I have that whole conversation with people. It's like, we've all done our work for free for other people and
yeah,
felt great about it. It just felt like we just wanted to do it. It was the right thing to do. We were glad while we were doing it. We were glad after we did it. That's great. But we've all also done stuff for free and then really wish we hadn't.
right,
And
right.
that's more like that's where the shift needs to be.
Yeah, yeah, and there is this collective idea, and then with the healers as well. Well, this is the work of God coming through you. You can't charge for that kind of work.
I know.
That's
People get that one.
evil and all that stuff. So how do you handle that one when it comes up? Like, yeah, we shouldn't charge for God's work or that
Yeah,
sort of.
I've had a few people, I've had a few people who like flat out say that, right? It's
Yeah,
like a position, right?
yeah, yeah.
I think there's a lot more people who they're not even quite sure that that's what like that's kind of this
Yeah,
behind the scenes
yeah,
programming, but they're
right,
not
right.
even quite aware of it. I think that's way more common.
It
But I will
is.
say when either they just flat out say it or we're able to kind of pull it out of them at some
Mhm.
point and realize, oh, that's what's going on.
Right,
I just say, look, if that's a belief of yours that is serving you, I'm not going to tell you you shouldn't believe that. If it's serving you, have at it.
right.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
But is it serving you? Right? Would you like to look at that? And can we just sort of pull that out into the light of day? Because by that argument of like you have a gift from God, from whatever, that you there and that because it's that you can't charge for it. By that same argument, an artist shouldn't be able to charge for their work.
Right. Or
Right?
anybody. I would say a
An author,
plumber
an author shouldn't be
or
able to because
whatever. It
they
doesn't
get things. and I don't think that makes any sense. If that makes sense to you, okay. And if it's serving you and you like believing that, okay. Right. But is it really serving you to do that? And I just kind of put it out that way. And it seems to shift things for people when we look at it that way.
Oh, for sure. That's a great way to put it. Is to do that. And so yeah, so people say that the other thing I see a lot of is just people feel like, well, the minute I let them pay me, then if it doesn't go well, then oh my God, now it's
Yeah.
like all this heaviness and responsibility on me. So I'm sure you addressed that question a lot. Like,
Well, yeah.
what?
I mean, that probably gets back to the, like, literally you're not responsible for their results,
Yeah,
the good or the bad. That's the really hard one.
yeah,
Right. You're responsible for the work that you did. Right.
right,
But, I'll also say, look, like, let's just really look at that. Because a lot of times they're working on physical issues, right? Health issues. It's like, if you were a doctor, could you guarantee results?
right.
I don't know any reputable doctor that guarantees results. Right?
Every patient that comes to me gets well every single time.
Right?
I'd run for the hills.
I
I
mean,
would
they
not
could
believe them for a second.
So but what they should do, which is responsible, is they can explain the pros and cons. They can talk about the track record of a particular treatment, maybe talk about odds, because in Western medicine, they get really into odds and statistics and stuff and everything, but it's no guarantee. There's no guarantee. And so why should you feel that your stuff has to have a guarantee too? So what I do and what I counsel people to do is be very upfront to say, like, I cannot guarantee results. It would be even if I were 100% sure all the time, it would be irresponsible for me to guarantee results. But here's what I can tell you, and then you kind of share, like, your experience, and based on this and this and this is what I will expect.
Yeah.
And it's more about explaining what you do to people, not ad nauseum and in all this crazy detail, because they don't want to know that, but explaining the kind of overall approach. I actually teach that, I call it the paradigm conversation, where you kind of like just get people on board with the paradigm that you're coming from. And you're asking them, does that make sense to you? Is this direction, this way of looking at things that is like that's behind the work that we're doing, does that make sense to you? You want them bought into the idea, not just bought into the idea of, like, well, this sounds magic and maybe it'll work for me and I'll try it, right?
Right.
But when they're actually bought into the overall approach, then they're willing to have some patience and take some time for things to work. And then the other thing I say to people that I think really helps with this issue is I make and we say energy healing is that's huge umbrella term. It's so many different things that fall under that, right? But some of the kind that I do would be in that category of kind of like identifying an imbalance and like clearing it or shifting it, right? That's one of the kinds of healing work that I do. And so I always with a client, and so I encourage my coaching clients to do the same, make the distinction between what I do and healing. Like, I don't heal you, right? Your body heals itself. Your body, Daniel, heals itself one cell at a time, same way it's always healed itself, right? What I'm trying to do is create the right conditions so that your body can do the healing that it already knows how to do. And sometimes there's a lot of conditions to change before any of the healing can happen. Sometimes there's not that much that needs to change, but then the healing itself is going to be slow. Like, I mean, I'll get in the weeds in this. I'm like, look, if you have a damaged ligament, it's not going to heal fast. Ligaments don't heal fast. They are a slow healing kind of tissue. If you have damage to the lining of your stomach, that's going to heal really fast if you have the right conditions, because it replaces itself, like twice a day or something, right? Like with crazy. So I'll say, like, the age of the person, an 8-year-old is going to heal faster than an 80-year-old every single time. So it's important to understand the difference between the actual healing, which they are doing, and the work that I'm doing over here to help make that healing more possible, more probable, able to do. And it's such an important distinction for people to get, because really we shouldn't call ourselves healers, because we don't actually heal people, but it's the term. Right. But I find that is so freeing for people to not only be clear about that themselves, but to have that language to say to their
Right.
clients, so their
Right.
clients get it.
Yeah. Well, clearly we are having an influence on what type of level of healing they get, though.
Yeah.
So I think we
Yeah.
have to keep that in account. And so yeah, some people in different energy beings for different people at different times, right? So
Yes.
if I'm like, I'm the healer for you, let me heal you, like, or what, if I was like, and then they're like, okay, whatever, fine, I'll hire you or whatever. And then they're like, yeah, it's not working for me. I don't know why, but well, like maybe we were meant to work together. Maybe it wasn't a fit energetically. Doesn't mean I'm a bad healer. It just means like
Yeah.
maybe it wasn't a fit. That's why
Yeah,
I
or
feel like,
maybe that was that was one step among many
right,
that are needed, right?
right.
Sometimes it's like you
Refit, right.
need
That's
this
refit.
healing work, but then you also need some chiropractic, or you also
Right.
need some nutritional support, or you also need to
Absolutely.
stop being so dehydrated all the time. Like you need
Right.
to just drink more water. I mean, right, it's like it's a combination of things.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
It could be so many things. And then we've got the, I always talk about unlimited intelligence and power, and we access that. So anything that we say here could maybe not be true. It's a lot of the stuff anyway, could not be true ultimately because the transcendence comes in and the ligament
Yeah.
heals instantly or whatever, right?
Well,
But
yeah,
yeah,
there's always that, right? And
yeah,
I always say, like, look, I think I really do. I think my superpowers, I really think anything's possible. I really do. But because I've just seen enough. I
right,
was like, that's
yeah,
not supposed to be possible.
right,
But you can't count on that kind of stuff happening, right?
right.
And sometimes the way I like to think of it and express it is, first of all, even if I'm right and anything's possible, sometimes the difference between possible, like technically possible, and probable is enormous, like a
Mhm.
1,000 miles away from each other. So yeah, technically
Mhm.
it's possible, but it's incredibly improbable because of all of these things. There's so
Mhm.
much going on, right? There's so
Mhm.
much dysfunction. There's so much,
Mhm.
someone who's, had a chronic disease for a long time. There's just a lot of damage. Is it
Mhm.
still possible? Yeah,
Mhm.
those miracles happen, right?
Yes. Yes.
But it's pretty improbable at that point, right? And so
Mhm.
there's this place of like helping people manage, understand, and be open to
Mhm.
things happening that they didn't think were possible, but at the
Mhm.
same time not staying grounded in, look, this could be really complicated. There's probably a lot going on here, and we it's not about waving a wand, even though maybe every
Yeah.
once in a while it ends up being a waving a wand, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
So.
one of the more hyped, and he ended up being an abuser, but like John of God, right? Like,
Mhm.
oh, just go see John of God, everything's gonna be good. But I've talked to many people that went to John of God, and it was an interesting trip, but they didn't get ultimate healing. I mean, and he has like what? They had hundreds of healers all together
Mhm.
working with him or something. Like, I don't know. So my point is, that's correct. And I always believe like it's always possible. Like it's
Yeah,
possible.
absolutely. That's that thing. How do we
There's people calling
maintain
themselves
that it's
healers,
always
like almost
possible?
almost everybody that goes to them, like it's instant healing. It's possible. I don't know that person, but I'm just saying like it's possible. So that's why I always
Mhm.
like to keep that idea open because a lot of
Yes.
it in my mind is like our own. There's so many false beliefs, so many concepts going on,
Yeah.
and then those concepts play themselves out. Yes, as the environment or this or that or the other thing, but it's really our deeper beliefs, and that's why we keep doing our own work when it comes to sales and healing ourselves and all that stuff. But it's just realizing like the difference we can make is what I really love is what we're pointing to here. There's a range of results,
Yeah.
for everybody, in my opinion, like to what they'll get, like, and it's not based on us, it's mostly based on them, and typically.
Right.
So when they come in, it's like, okay, well, this is, like you said, like I expect at a minimum, you're going to feel way better. You're going to see some changes, you know, on the other side, like I think like you could totally break through and heal. Like that's possible, and
It
I
is
might
that. Yeah,
just like
absolutely. And
that.
it's just finding that place of being able to like hold that possibility,
Hmm.
without promising something that you shouldn't
Right,
promise, right?
right,
It's like
right.
finding that place in between, and especially when you have something where someone I'm sure you've had, and I've had, many people have had someone come to us who they're very, very sick, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? They're stage 4, whatever. And,
Right.
and it's like, look, the odds, is it possible? I 100% believe it's possible.
Yes.
And I also recognize it's not very probable at that point,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so that's where you have to be very sensitive, because hope itself is such a precious commodity at that point,
Yeah.
that you kind of just like really need to kind of meet them where they are, and have a space for all of that, have a space for all the feelings that they're having and all that, and do the best you can,
Right.
and like I said, hold that space, but responsibly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like we're talking really about building your confidence and doing this work in the first place, because that is huge to sales. I mean,
Yeah.
so is sales, I know what the answer is, but I'll have fun with this. So is sales some complicated conversation, and you gotta have the script out, and you're gonna be in your heart, but you got this complicated script, you gotta hit all the right notes, and then maybe they'll say yes or what.
I
Let's get
think
out.
I think most of the time people are overcomplicating. I'm going to answer this a couple ways. So a lot of times people are overcomplicating it because they're adding on all their own concerns. They're adding in all of their own limiting beliefs, their own self-doubt, and they're like, well, I have to tell them everything. Like, one of the most common mistakes people make when someone expresses interest in what you do, and like is saying like, so that's kind of cool, tell me more, is that they then just fire hose people with information, right? It's so common. I call it the tell me more trap, right? And I have this whole training, which we'll make available to people, of like how to avoid that, right? So people are overcomplicating it because they tend to be giving people way too much information. And most of that's coming from it's coming from kind of two things. One, their own sort of self-doubt and they're trying to like justify, right? Like, if I give them all the pieces of information, then they'll see the value in it, right? So that's one reason. The other reason is they simply don't have the skills that the situation requires. There's a set of skills. It's not about having a script, but it is about having skill, right? And sales is just a set of skills, just like learning to ride a bike, learning to play the piano, learning to do your healing work. You didn't know how to do that. You had to learn the skills, right? And as you did it more over time, you got really good at it, you got really practiced at it. So now when you're doing healing work, you don't have to really think very hard about it, because you have the skills. You can just be present with the person, right? And just, the skills are there. Sales is just like that. When you don't have the skills, your brain's all over the place. You're like, what do I say now? And blah, 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 blah. And maybe I better tell them this. But when you have the skills, you're not all over the place. You're not in your own head. You're actually present with the other person, and you're able to like really listen and be with them, because and know like, oh, I'm going to ask them this now, because I want, and it doesn't even feel it's because you just want, it's honestly because you're just genuinely curious and you want to get to know them, right? But it is a set of skills. And so if they've never learned the skills of sales, and I would call them the soulful sales skills, right? Then yeah, it's just never going to be very effective, because you just frankly don't know what you're doing. Right?
Right.
But when you know what you're doing, it can be very, very simple. In answer to your question, it can also be complex, in the sense that sometimes someone there's got a lot of stuff going on, or they're very scared, or they're very whatever. And so you really have to bring a lot of level of skill to like just stay in there with them and like ask another question. But at its core, sales is this simple. Okay. This is what I call sales in a nutshell. Sales is find out what's going on. Find out like what it is they're dealing with, what pain they're in, what struggle they're in, what it is that's going on with them that they want to change, right? Find out what they want instead, or what they see as possible. Like what would it mean for them if that were to be resolved, right? And then if you have something that is the bridge from here to here, offer it to them. I mean, that really is sales in a nutshell.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think one of the recent, I don't take a lot of sales trainings anymore lately, but I do listen to different people. And one of the people I was listening to lately, I mean, nothing, mind blowing, but like I always learn something new. It's like, oh, well, I kind of know that, but like this makes it clearer, right? Like even
Yeah.
it was basic thing of like, the more questions you ask, the better off you'll be. Like,
Yeah,
instead
I
of,
mean, here, so, and it makes so much sense. I'll give you an actual statistic about that. So this is one of the
yeah,
things about sales is
yeah,
it's very studied, right?
right.
So some study not that long ago showed that the best salespeople as
Hmm.
compared to the okay salespeople. So in other words,
Hmm.
people who are not like the bottom of people who are making a living doing sales, right? They're
Hmm.
successful. But the
Yeah,
comparison of those people to like the most successful ask almost twice as many questions.
yeah, yeah. I could see that. I mean, it makes total sense. I mean, because it allows them to talk, number one. Number two, it allows them to kind of figure some things out that allows them to feel like, yeah, I want to do this, right? Through the
Yeah,
questions. Just naturally,
it's
you could
all
almost
through
ask,
questions. Sales is
you don't
like
have to even ask
80%.
perfect questions. You don't even have to ask perfect
They
questions.
don't have to
Just,
be perfect.
yeah,
Now,
yeah.
there is some skill to that, and it's
Yes,
good to
yeah,
learn some
sure,
questions
sure.
that tend to be helpful. Like over
Yes,
time,
oh,
I've learned
100%.
questions that I find to be
Yes,
especially helpful and
yes,
illuminating.
yes.
But it's like almost any question is better than no question.
Right, right. Yeah, I agree
A
with that.
question just like, can you tell me more about that? Or I'm curious, how did that, or how long has it been going on? It's one of my favorite questions to ask when someone is
Right,
talking about something that they're dealing with is just how long has that been going
right,
on? It's just not
right.
rocket science, but it's a really good question.
Yeah, it is. Makes them think about like how they've been dealing with this thing,
Yeah.
right? I mean, really sinks them into, and this is where people say, "Oh, gross," but it's just true. Like they have to get present with their pain, otherwise they're gonna be like, "So the pain is I have to pay you money? Yeah, I don't like that pain. I'm out of here," right? Because that's
Well,
how a lot of
let
times
me
people.
say something about that, right? Because if you've done any kind of sales training and marketing training
Yeah.
as well, one of the things that is always taught is that people are much more motivated to get out of pain or to resolve pain than
Yes.
they are to go to a pleasure. And it's just true.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean
Yeah.
that there's no such thing as a
Yes.
aspirational kind of sale. People obviously do
Sure.
buy things just to feel good, right? But
Sure.
there's usually pain involved too, right? They're also kind of
Mhm.
wanting to get away from
Right.
something, right?
Right.
And so us kind of heart-centered, soul-centered people are like, I don't want to sell to the pain. I don't want to, right? I don't want to do
Right.
that. I just want to talk about love and joy and all that stuff, which I get. And it's just important to people. Joy is a terrible marketing message. I wish it weren't. I wish it was something, but it doesn't motivate people. I'm just going to tell you, it just doesn't. Many have tried it.
Uh-huh.
Doesn't work. Okay. However, the whole thing of speaking to the pain
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to be, oh, tell me more about that. Tell me, let's twist the knife. Let's get you feeling the
Right.
pain badly. It
Right.
doesn't have to be that. Okay.
Does it hurt enough now?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Speaking to the, I'll just use the word pain. It could be struggle, overwhelm, whatever it is, can also be simply coming from, I get you.
Yeah.
I see you. I've been there. Right. I mean, that's speaking to people's pain also.
Right.
And
Right.
that's the way
Exactly.
that we can
That's
do
really
it that works
felt.
for us. Yeah.
It really, I want to say yokes you with them too. Like you get on the same
Yeah.
energy frequency that way. And I mean, for me, I struggled a lot with sales when I first started. I mean, I don't know if you did too, Ann, but I
Mhm.
struggled a lot with it because what I do, like similar to everybody else, I was doing these scans, right? So
Mhm.
or whatever, I'd meet with them, but it was a lot of it was scans in the beginning, but until I learned the sales part after the
Mhm.
scan, like then I still didn't work out for me because I
Yeah.
literally was
And
telling them basically not to hire me, honestly. I'd say,
yeah,
"You see the
basically, it's
divine
like
perfection you are,
you were
you're well."
probably like, you had them right there, but you were missing the piece to get them to actually
I was
purchase, right?
avoiding getting this and letting them
Yeah.
hire me because I wanted
Yeah.
to only see the good. Ultimately, I was like,
Yeah.
now, even though we
And it,
saw all the other stuff, the truth is you're divine perfection. And so I'll know that for you, but I could help you with what I saw. What do you think? Like,
yeah, yeah, exactly. And so, we're not really serving them if we're unwilling to speak through the pain, because the pain is what's there. I mean, that's just the truth, that's there for people all the time. And and when you can be that clearing, that space where they feel safe to talk about their pain, whether they end up buying from you or not, you've provided them a real service. And there needs to be a place. I remember I was just talking with someone I know today who she takes care of, who she serves and supports with her work are angel parents, so parents who have lost a child, right? Which is also her. And so we were talking about that, and she was she literally just today she said this to me. She's like, yeah, like when that first happened, so if someone was trying to talk to me about joy, I just want to punch him in the mouth, right? It's like,
Right,
you know,
Why should live
do
a
not talk
joyful
to me
life?
about
We get
that, right?
on with it,
And
right?
even not just right after, but for a long time, it's like that's not meeting
Yeah.
people where they are.
Yeah. Yeah. Many people.
Try to be the like, let's
I would
just do joy
disagree
and
with
harmony and balance. It's like,
that's true, and it could not be true. There are people that are just like, I just want to live a joyful, fun life, and they will gravitate towards the joyful, you know, whatever healer, coach, or whatever. That's possible, but yeah, there's huge numbers of people that won't resonate with it too. I mean, are
yeah, well,
in
and people want
tremendous
to be
pain.
known, and they want to be felt, and they want to know that they're, you know, the place that they're struggling. They want to know they're not alone. They
Yeah.
want to know that there's hope, right? And
Yeah.
so if we're willing to be and have that, you know, hold that space for them, then
Right.
that can help them move out of that and into, and then they do get joy.
Right. Right. So I mean, I'm guessing like you had your trials and errors, right? So to
Of
speak,
course.
or you know, right? What was one of your number one things that would trip you up?
You know, I still make mistakes, you know, of course,
Sure,
but
sure, we all do.
the most, I think some of the biggest things that, you know, I had to learn along the way that I try to help people do is one of them is the one I just mentioned, the tell me more trap. It's like when people ask you to tell them more about what you do, that is not an invitation to fire hose them with information. They don't want that. They really, even if they say like, tell me how that works, I promise you, they don't really want to know how it works. Right? But they do want to know, you know, if it could help them, right? And
Right.
so the most important thing that I teach, and there's a whole kind of series of things to handle
Yep.
the tell me more trap, which will be in the free gift. But the first one I'll tell you right now. So when someone is expressing some interest and saying in some way, they're saying, you know, tell me more about that. Instead of starting to tell them anything, because you don't know really why they asked, you say something like, I would love to, but first, what interests you about it? Right? Or I'd love to, but first, you know, what got your attention? And then listen. If you
Yeah.
simply make that one change, that will start to change your conversations and will get you out of your head and over there into their world, which is where you need to be in order to have an impact. So that's one of the biggest ones. And another one is the one you just talked about, actually, is that you have them kind of right there. They're interested. You just, you know, like you maybe even kind of blew them away, right? And then you don't actually ask, would you like to, you know, you don't actually invite them to work with you, right? You're like, well, and people don't, I'll give you another stat. This is one of my favorite stats about sales. 65% of the time, salespeople, like professional salespeople, fail to ask for the sale. They have the whole conversation, but they don't actually do the part. They don't actually say, would you like to get started? Or how would you like to do for that? Or would you like to start with this? Or right, the actual piece. And they think they have. They don't.
Right.
So if that's
Wasn't it
professional
obvious?
salespeople, think how often people who are not professional people are actually like, I feel like I offered it to them, but if you played it back, there's no point at which you actually said, would you like to do that? You actually have to do that part.
Yeah, the minute the prospect starts saying, well, I'm pretty busy and everything. Okay, well, it's great to talk to you today. Bye-bye. That happens to stuff like that. I don't want to bother them, right? All this kind of thing. Like, okay, people say all kinds of things. I can tell. I was just telling my friend that wants to play tennis. You know, we haven't got together a while. I says, my mind tells me I'm too busy, but let me just get real grounded. I get right back to you soon here. But yeah, my mind says not till February, but we'll see. I mean, I know I have time. It just is what my mind's saying. Like your mind just is, if you're kind of busy or whatever's going on for you, emotional, whatever, people say all kinds of crazy things that aren't true. So you have to just
all the time.
Down, be like, well, wait a minute. I heard you say that. Is that actually really true? What's really going on for you? Can I ask? Can we dig into more what's really going on? Is there some other reason why you wouldn't want to move forward with getting this healing, or, you know, whatever it is? So to ask more questions, like you said before. And so I know you have a whole entire, you know, free gift for people to take advantage of, where it will help them with understanding like how to successfully make these conversations work for them and avoid these the traps, as you say, that kill the
Yes.
sales.
And
So
that really is the tell me more trap. I love teaching that because it happens right at the beginning of the conversation. So if you get that wrong, it's really hard to recover, right? Like once you've verbally vomited all over someone, they really don't want to hear anything else you have to say, right?
I already know the price and the price too. They always want to know the price right away if you're not doing things correctly. And then once they hear, oh, great, I'll think about it. I'll get back to you.
And then you're left, you have no place to go, right? So that's why, look, another reason I call it the tell me more trap is because it really isn't about you telling them more. It's about you getting them to tell you more about them and what they want and what they're dealing with. So, so this gift is called Sales Conversation Secrets, Heart-Centered Sales Made Simple. And it starts with that. It starts with when someone expresses, a little bit of interest, like, oh, tell me more about that. And that's the first step, is to say some version of, oh, I'd love to, but what got your attention? What interests you about it? And really listen, right? And then it walks you through another 4 or 5 steps. It kind of depends on the circumstances. And that really, I just break it down into these kind of micro steps, because then once you kind of understand it and they each make sense to you, it just makes all the difference. So that you really can have a successful conversation. And then I have a really wonderful way for you to make the actual invitation at the end that I call the expert opinion recommendation. And it really can transform your results just from going through what's on that gift.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, that sounds wonderful. And I think I might have seen it before, because all this stuff I do check out here and there, right? But I did, if I remember correctly, it was very helpful, but I am going to check it out again, of course. So yeah, everybody, like, listen, I train people that are really good at sales already, and they think I'm the ace, like I'm the one to train their sales force. So if I'm willing to take advantage of it, you should take advantage of it too, is the way I look at it. Okay.
Exactly. I couldn't have said it better.
Yeah. So take advantage. We'll put it in the show notes, and now we're on to the time of the show where I do my energy scan segment with my guests to give you a couple of downloads I have for you. And by the way, audience, it's fall for you too. Trust me, it'll be something in it for some of you for sure. So Anna, you ready for the brief energy scan? Okay.
I am.
Great. Cool. Yeah. Just a couple of quick downloads. Let's see what comes through. This will be fun. Okay. So I got this image of you, like there's so much that comes through. It's just like so much. And so I just get this sense of uncomfortability that's been in your, like almost like you're like boiled in water kind of feeling. So like that, like, so again, I always tell people too, and I don't need to say it to you, but to the audience, like it may be an analogy, but there's an energy around it. Like you're boiled in water, just like, what the heck? Like, why is this? And then it's like an irritation thing builds up too around this, like this whole thing where you're being like put in hot water, and you're on the spot, being put on the spot. Now, what's the answer? Like, tell us, And so you're like, well, and so you've had to get really resourceful of like being able to come up with those answers, like, and you learn to tap dance, right? So I think that's really an amazing ability you've cultivated that they're showing me. So that's one download. Okay, let me see what else I get. I was like, which one do I want to pick? Okay, so yeah, I mean, definitely, like when I was kind of guided to your third eye is one of the things was popping through. So it's you really have a real ability when your thing has been to trust it, right? The gift. It's like you have real clear seeing, but it's I feel you have programming that, again, you probably moved a lot through, but we always have more.
There's always more.
But like where you know something and you could share it and you could bring it out there, but something inside you says, well, I don't know if that's something I should be talking about though, or something like that. Like
Mhm.
maybe that's something, we could talk about those type of things. So like, so you might see something and you may not like really bring it into fruition or express it or say it. Like even when you psychically pick up on something, you might be like, yeah, I kind of know that, but I don't want to embarrass anybody. So something like that, like there's a pattern that's
Mhm.
been there with
Mhm.
that.
Okay.
So yeah, I think like, cause honestly, like, because it is uncomfortable. I mean, I'm sure you do it, but like, it's uncomfortable for a lot of us to just bang on and tell somebody the way it is. Listen, this
Yeah.
is the way it is. And so the more you embrace that even more than you already have, like the more impact and more success you have. So that was another thing that was coming through.
I can get that. That resonates.
Cool, cool. Awesome. Awesome. So yeah, anything else you want to share that came about what came through real quick?
Um, no, that was just that was very helpful. I think that is something that has progressed for me, where I more and
Mhm.
more will just be like, okay, let's just not beat around the bush. Let's just say
Right.
what needs to be said. I think it's something that comes with age, first of all, right? There's a certain point where you're like, why am I walking on eggshells about this? Let's just call it what it is, and people will deal. They'll just deal.
Right, right, right. Exactly, exactly. Oh, cool. All right, so everybody, if you want to check me out more and look into my energy scanning stuff, my energy scan training, and learn more about getting an energy scan, go to my website, yoursacredpurpose.com. I'm there to help you healers to be able to see what's going on for yourself, see your superpowers, unleash those in your business, and do your thing, right? To be able to thrive. So you can check all that out at my website at Your Sacred Purpose. Maybe check out my Rock Your Sacred Purpose energy scan consultation as a beginning. I also have a free meditation there is for you as well. Meditate, make money. Okay, it's a good
Love it.
foundation, right? Get yourself all connected up, get the downloads, get the coding you need, and listen to your guides. And they've got incredible things to share with you, but you got to take the time to listen. So that
That's
the
very
meditation
true.
helps you.
Very
Yeah,
true. They're just
so it helps
like,
you to do it.
hello.
Right? We're trying to tell you, would you what's the answers? Where do I go? How do I do? Like, would you listen? Like, all right, now we can tell you. Okay, so yeah, go check that out at yoursacredpurpose.com, the free meditate, make money meditation. Okay, and this is just fantastic. I mean, in some sort of sense, I feel like we're brother and sister out here,
Yeah,
doing
we're
our work
all,
out here, right? Exactly. And so I really, really enjoyed. It felt like I was talking shop, with
yeah,
a colleague, right? So it was really cool. And I know the audience, the healers out there, especially, really got a lot from it. And I'm really grateful you came on the show today.
me too. It was very fun. So we'll do it
All
again.
right.
All right.
All right. Okay, everybody. So good to have you tune in. Like I always say, keep on tuning in, and we'll keep on rocking it here at Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Till next time. For listening to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast, stay tuned for our next upcoming new episodes each Saturday. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review to help us to serve you best. As a reminder, you can get your free Meditate and Make Money meditation at www.yoursacredpurpose.com to rock your sacred purpose. Goodbye for now, everybody.